Hello, everyone, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin. I'm located in North Hollywood, California.
My name is Stephanie Orlina. I am a transformational life coach, and I am in San Diego, California, and it's August and it's raining.
Yes, we
Yes.
are. We record about 2 weeks ahead of time, so this is probably going to be old news by the time you listen to it. But we are actually in the midst of the tropical storm, formerly known as Hurricane Hillary. Um, and yeah, it's raining lightly here in Los Angeles. Is it raining heavily in San Diego? Or
It's been raining since early this morning, and it's only stopped for a couple of minutes, and it's not a heavy rain, but it'll be light to medium. And the humidity and the smell of the rain, I am like in heaven right now. It's wonderful.
I was just as soon as I asked that question, I realized that you have no idea what heavy rain is because you've lived in San Diego your entire life. So
No, I do know what heavy rain is because
yeah.
once on holiday in Kauai,
Oh, okay.
Lou literally had to pull over because it was like buckets on the windshield. He could not see. We could
Oh,
not see the front.
that
Yeah,
one
yeah,
time in
that one time.
Hawaii.
Yeah. Well, I have experienced it. Yes, you asked me if I've experienced. I'm like, yeah, I have. Not here.
It's so funny because the last time I went to Maine to visit my family, Kelly will know this. Um, like I literally, it was the first day I was picking my dad up and taking him back to his house. It was about a 20-minute drive on Interstate 95, and just the skies opened up, and I couldn't see anything. And I was like, "Oh yeah, summer in Maine. I forgot."
Wow, really? Okay. Yeah. No, just that one
But I'm
time in
happy.
Kauai.
I'm
Thank you,
happy that you
Kauai.
had that. I'm happy you had that one time of rain.
Yeah,
It
one
was
is good
heavy.
enough. I'm born and raised in San Diego. Like we do not have weather, and when we do, this girl is like overjoyed. When was it? The last year? Last year, I think it was last fall. We had a storm come in. It was lightning storm, and I was in heaven. Lightning for like a good couple hours, and then I literally went outside and followed it north, and it was in La Jolla, and the sky was just lighting up, and I was overjoyed because I'm like, we don't get that kind of weather here.
Yeah.
It's like fabulous. And I always say I'm my heart is more of a Northern California girl where they get more weather than we do here in Southern Cal.
Yeah. I vividly remember when I first moved to San Diego. It was literally the first few days there. I moved in December, so it was back in 2013, 2012. That was the rainy season. We don't have a rainy season anymore, but back then we did. And I remember, like, I got into the elevator at one point in some building. It had been a hotel I was staying at temporarily or something like that. But like, anyway, it was the woman. Yeah, I think I had stayed overnight at a hotel, and I got up in the morning and I was in the elevator. And when I got down to the lobby. A woman came in, and she'd come in from outside, and she was in a terrible mood. And she was just like, "Oh, this rain, I can't stand it," like, "Oh, it's terrible." And I was just like, "Oh, I'm unprepared. I don't have an umbrella, whatever." And I was like, "Well, sometimes in Maine it rains. You
Yeah,
don't have an
yeah.
umbrella, so like you just." And I remember so vividly, like getting outside the hotel door, and I've described this to my family many times, and it felt like I was getting kissed by 1,000 angels. It was the lightest, gentlest, like rain you could possibly. It wasn't mist. It
It,
was actually rain.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was like,
yeah. Little
and it,
sprinkles here
it
and there.
actually
Yeah.
felt like a very calming, soothing massage, and I was just
Mm,
like, wow, things are different here.
yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Anyway, to get back to the intro, we want to thank you so much for listening or watching or both, whatever you're doing. We do want to let you know we often mention the names Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks. If you're not familiar with those, Esther is a speaker and author who channels Abraham. Abraham is described as a group of entities from beyond our physical world who share their wisdom by speaking through Esther at workshops and speaking opportunities around the world. You can find more about them by searching here on YouTube, if you're on YouTube watching us, or your web browser or their website, abraham-hicks.com. Each week we start our discussion from a different jumping off point. And this week we're going to start off talking about combination. I think there were sort of two topics that blended together, which was when you actually get to a level of happiness, like how do you handle that and without sabotaging it, and also still allowing yourself to allow more in, but still be grateful for and enjoy the happiness that you're enjoying as a result of you, hopefully practicing the art of allowing. But also this story that came out of the Dungeons and Dragons world, which I am in very heavily now, where people are definitely complaining about something that there does not need to be any complaining about.
When we were talking about this in friend time, I'm like, really? And then I'm like, are we really going to talk about this? You and I, like in our friend time, have this conversation about people complaining about something fabulous that happened because then they're projecting into the future of what might happen. I'm just like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. So the story is that, and you can, we're going to get so many views on YouTube because you can hashtag Baldur's Gate 3, which is the name of the game.
You have to tell me that again later.
Yeah, I'll tell you how to spell it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I don't play video games, but because I play Dungeons and Dragons, I am friends with many avid video game enthusiasts and players. And as a global community, I hope I'm not being too harsh by saying that the global community of video game players can be cranky and a bit negative at times. And this game called Baldur's Gate 3, which is like the newest Dungeons and Dragons video game, was just released about a week ago. And it was, eagerly anticipated by the entire video gaming community. And when it launched, people started basically saying, this game is amazing. It's the greatest video game ever created of all time. They did all sorts of crazy stuff where the company that made it spent a lot of money making it. They had actors in whatever that is, the computer-generated graphics suits that monitor your movements and everything, and then they can translate the movement of a live actor into a computer-generated.
That's pretty awesome.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. I have watched on YouTube because people can record themselves playing. I've watched the introduction of the first 20 minutes, and it is like you're in a movie. Like you're in like this incredible movie, and the things are really happening all around you. It's pretty amazing. But anyway, so for a few days, all that anyone was saying on the internet was like, "This is amazing. I love it. I can't stop playing it. I can't wait to finish it. And then I'm going to play all over again. Blah blah blah." And then about a week in, there's this controversy that started, and I saw a video on YouTube that had about 1 million views already. And the controversy is that in the giant video game community, there's a bunch of people that are worried and are complaining that the new D&D video game Baldur's Gate 3 is so good that it will set expectations that are too high and will create too much disappointment in the future as other video games are created and released and are not as good as Baldur's Gate 3.
So wild and crazy. Like, really? Oh man.
Can you imagine? I mean, I just can't imagine like a sport, but like a sports team, like if they win the Super Bowl like 3 years in a row or something, and then you're like, oh, well, that's really bad because now we'll just expect to win the Super Bowl every year.
And look at that, and they're putting that into their. Well, they're not putting it into their vortex because we only put
they're putting the idea out there.
Yeah, we only put all the good things we want are in our vortex. But what they're projecting out into the future something that they don't, or they're talking about something that they don't want. Right. And the more we talk about it, the more we create it because law of attraction is always responding to us. So that's funny. In their
defense, I should say, in the gaming community's defense, there's lots of people that are also saying this is stupid and a total waste of air. Like, can we just please? This game's amazing. Can we just play it and have fun and enjoy it?
Exactly. And then that's kind of leading into what I was mentioning earlier was that, I recently, I'm dating someone right now, and it's very casual dating, and there's a lot of things that I don't like, and it was like, and then I had to remind myself, Steph, you wanted to date someone. You're now dating someone. You're having a good time. Enjoy it. Just enjoy it. This is something you wanted. Like we went to Comedy Heights last night for comedy, and I had gone like several months ago, and I went by myself because I couldn't find a friend who's in San Diego, Collin, that could go. And so I was like, I want to go.
Or who lives near San Diego and has a car, apparently.
Well, then we shall do that. I didn't think you'd be willing to drive down for one night and then drive back, but okay, we'll do that.
No,
You'll be the next.
Never done that.
You'll be the next person I go with.
Didn't I
And
drive down in the morning to see the D&D movie with you and drove
you're
back?
absolutely right. I just don't think of that. That
It's
blew my
okay.
mind
It's
too.
okay if you think of all your other friends before me. My ego is
Uh,
not fragile. I'm not hurt at all.
I'm very much one of my love languages is quality time and physical touch. So I love to see friends in person.
Mine too.
So back
Mine
to my story. So I went several months ago and I was telling Colin, I go, I put in my vortex back then that I wanted to be there with someone on a date. And so I'm sitting in my chair last night and my date's sitting next to me. And I had this moment of, Steph, we wanted this. This was in our vortex and now we're living it. And it was super cool because I just sat with that for, it wasn't a minute, it was probably 30 seconds, but I just really like took it in and it felt really good. And so this morning when I was kind of thinking about some of the things I don't like about this person, I was like, Steph, you wanted to be dating someone. Enjoy it. What is it like Abraham says? Appreciation for what is and eagerness for what's coming. And I have this birthday card that someone gave me years ago that I kept, and it was like, there's two things to aim for in life. One is to get what you want, and after that, to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I thought, Steph, enjoy this. It's a nice guy. You're having fun. You enjoy spending time together. And know the nugget that I want, the guy that I want exists and he's coming because I'm getting little pieces of different people that I'm meeting, showing me that I'm on the right track. The breadcrumbs that we talked about, I think was that the crackle episode that we talked about the breadcrumbs.
Yes. So, I'm very glad that you brought up your dating life again because
We're eventually
we're
gonna
gonna rename this show
eventually,
"The Law of
yeah.
Attraction: The Art of Allowing."
In
And
6 months. We're
Amazing
gonna give it 6 months.
dating
It's in
life.
the works.
Also, I'm guessing the man that you're dating currently doesn't watch or listen to the show because otherwise he would know. Like it's sort of different.
I only say it. I only say it because I highly doubt that he'll ever listen to this, and if he
Yeah,
ever does, we'll both be on to someone else by that point.
yeah.
A and B. When I was thinking about bringing it up this morning, I was thinking, I remember listening to DJs in the morning, and they're like, sometimes I'll have three or four, and occasionally they'd bring up someone's dating life. And then there a couple of times someone would say, yeah, I'm not going to mention their name because I don't want to say such and such, or I don't want to say like how I feel about them because they're going to listen to this. And, I don't want to like spoil anything or put too much pressure or whatever. So I thought about it, and here we are.
Yeah, Maine, where my sister Kelly still lives and where I grew up, you absolutely cannot do that because someone listening will know that person. It's guaranteed. Like someone will know that person.
And a good friend of mine recently turned me on to this. I don't know his name. But if you really want to know the video and the name of the person, put a message in our YouTube and I will send you the information. And I listened to a fabulous, it almost looked like he's doing a TED talk, and he's talking about relationships, and he's talking about the three myths about love. And one of them is there's no one. He goes, look for the 0.64 and make them your one. I loved that. I was like, oh, he goes, and remember, they're doing the same thing to you. You're not their one, you're their 0.64, and together you can make each other your one. And I was like, oh, so good.
I had a now ex-girlfriend many years ago in college, and I think before we actually started dating, when we were just friends, she mentioned this thing. And I always remembered this, and this is one of these things like spiritual wisdom I got before I started studying spiritual wisdom.
Yeah.
But she said, yeah, I think there's a pool for every person in the world. There's a pool of people out there.
Ooh, I like that one
And
too.
if it doesn't work out with one person in the pool, you can find another person in that pool. And it just sounds so. I just love the way she described it. It's simple, it's easy to understand, and it's true. I mean, it's just completely true. And that's
Or
nothing to say. Like there are people who literally find the love of their life in high
oh my
school,
God, right?
stay
Yeah,
married, die happy, and
yeah,
I
I
bless that.
know. Yeah,
100%.
right.
But
But far and few.
the rest of
And
us,
and the other thing I like to think of, because I think I have this fear, and I think it's definitely a lack fear. And it's like, well, when I meet him, my fear is that we won't be together for the next 30 years. you know, like we'll be together like 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. And I'm like, no, I want to keep you forever. But knowing that there is that, and then I'm like, well, at least you had it once, it's okay. But
yeah,
in hearing what you just said, it was like, yeah, it's possible to have it more than once in a lifetime. Like I'm at the point where I just want to have experience once before I leave this earth.
yeah.
But that's a lot of deprivation too, in the sense of there's this pool and there could be another person. It'll be different, but it'll be just as good in different ways.
I have a really good friend in Cincinnati who met her. I mean, really met the. She was married, I think, twice, and not to her, neither her first or second husband were her dream partner, and she really felt like she met somebody who was like her a soulmate. From the pool of soulmates, she was a soulmate with this person. She was in her mid to late 60s, and he was in his early to mid 70s, and they were together for. I feel bad that I can't remember exactly how long, but I want to say like 6 years, and then he died. He I think he got cancer or something and died pretty quickly. And she wrote so beautifully after his passing that like she feels like he was her soulmate, and the 6 years with him was a lifetime. Like
That's
just
cool.
almost like her time was bent.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. That's awesome.
she doesn't regret a thing. Like she doesn't regret when they met, how long they got to be together. I mean, of course, she
Right?
wanted to live longer.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
It's one of these things of like when you are in alignment with what you really want, and you allow it in and it shows up. It's like it's kind of this whole sort of like. I remember when I moved to Los Angeles, I talked to this guy that I just bumped into, and he said, "Oh, how long have you lived in LA?" And I was like, "Oh, I just moved here." And he said, "Oh, that's great." And I said, "Yeah." And I was being kind of negative. I was being self-critical because I said, "Oh, yeah, I've wanted to live here since I was literally since I was like 10 years old, and it took me 30 years to get here." And he was like, "Well, you're here now. It's great." I was
Right?
like, "You know what? You are correct, sir."
Yeah, and attitude is everything. I was talking to a friend the other day and I was saying how um when I wanted to go get my spa, when I wanted to buy a spa, I was like, yeah, but that's going to be like 10 grand. And I wanted to redo the deck and composite decking. And at the time it was going to be like 35,000 or something. And I'm like, and I walk into Costco one day and they had spas. And I'm like, what? Costco has spas. I was talking to Angel and I got off the phone with her and I'm like, I'll call you back, honey. And I walk over and by this point I had done a lot of investigating and research. And so I came over to the woman and I asked her a ton of questions. And I had this one negative question and that thing just flew right over her head. She never responded to my negative question. And I'll never forget. I remember in the moment speaking to her and thinking like, she didn't answer my question. Really good saleswoman, I have to say. And then she said I go and I explained to her like, I want to get the spa, but I want to redo my deck and I can't, it's too expensive. And she says to me, she goes, if you bought your spa now, you could enjoy your spa now instead of waiting to get the deck and da da da. And I was like, I walked away from that thing, and that was what made the decision for me. I'm like, she's right. Who cares what the
Yeah.
deck looks like? Like I bought my spa, I get to enjoy it now. And it's funny because eventually getting the spa, then we looked at getting the decking, and we ended up going for a lesser. It wasn't a lesser quality. It just wasn't the high end quality decking. And you know what? When I put that, I had seen it at Home Depot before, and I was like, no, it's not as nice as the Trek. And then when we were getting estimates on the decking, the guy goes, the guy that we ended up using, he's like, Home Depot has. And so I went and got a piece of it, put it up against the existing deck, and was like, oh yeah, that's a way lot better than the deck. Even though the deck was sound, we didn't like walking on it. We didn't like touching it because the wood was, it was old. It was like maybe 10 years old or whatever. And so it's all about the negativity, right? Like she just was like, pew, just let it bounce right. She could have answered my question and we could have gotten to this back and forth. Probably would have never bought from her. We ended up becoming friends. She ended up becoming a client. But it's all about perspective, right? And what we focus on. no matter what it is.
I found another. This we're gonna blow up on YouTube this episode because the other hashtag you can use is hashtag building a deck. Which, if my YouTube suggestions are any indication, building a deck is like one of the top 5 topics searched on YouTube. So,
Home Depot.
but yeah, I mean, I think there's to get back to sort of what we were talking about in the very beginning. I think that there's I don't know if it's an art or a skill, but it's something that I've worked on and I get better over time, which is being able to accept a certain level of happiness, and not block, not sabotage the happiness I'm currently enjoying by trying to nitpick and find, oh, well, yeah, this is great, but
yeah,
you're sort of saying with the
big old butt,
the man you're going to dump soon, but
or vice versa,
vice versa.
I'm like, we're both probably are just like, this is a human being. That's good enough to spend time with,
This is going to be hilarious if you two are still together in like 4 years.
Oh my God, right?
But not, there is this sort of middle, happy medium, middle ground where, you try to enjoy, have gratitude for all the abundance that you have, whatever that is, whatever level it's at, and enjoy the things that bring you joy now and today. Because as, Eckhart Tolle and many others say, like what we really only, I sent you and Kelly that musical thing a few weeks ago about like, there is no future, like in this weird way, like the future is an idea. And it's an important idea to practice the art of allowing, but we live in the present. Like there's the only thing we can ever actually physically enjoy is the present moment.
Because tomorrow never gets here.
Yeah, really, it doesn't.
It's always today.
Yeah.
I love that saying.
It's staying in that happy medium. You're not sabotaging the happiness you have, but you also are not blocking more abundance.
Right.
I think a lot of us are, raised or learn this idea in our culture where it's like, oh, there's a limit. Like if you've got an X, well, then that's the limit. And either you're greedy for wanting more or you're selfish for wanting more or whatever. And I just always feel like, yeah, there's definitely such a thing as greed. Like I think you can be too attached to material things. You can be focusing on the things in the future and not enjoying your present life, not being grateful for what you have. But it's also like very human, like the human, whatever you want to talk about, heart, soul, mind, all together. It's just built to desire things. It's just built to like you see something and you want it. It doesn't mean you have to go get everything you see that you like, but it does mean that your system is always going to be seeking more. And I think one thing I love about how Abraham talks about it is like Abraham talks about human life on this planet right now as like this ever evolving story where we're all just adding pieces to the story and allowing in more things into our lives that make us happier is just expanding the happier story, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if
it's
you're
actually the way it's supposed to be. Life is supposed to be good for us. We're supposed to get what we want. We're supposed to have fun. Things are supposed to work out for us. And we're the only ones, I'm the only one blocking that or slowing it down. No one else is. Now, if you say something and I take that on, I'm doing it to myself.
But it can take practice. Like if you've like,
absolutely.
If you're like me, but you were raised with a lot of deprivation, lack, poverty kind of mentality. Receiving abundance and really just sort of staying even with it and enjoying it, it can be challenging because like your habit is having less than that, and so like your comfort zone is having less than that. There's a lot of famous stories about winners of large lotteries in the United States where they win hundreds of millions of dollars all at once, and their system, their personal system of abundance is not sufficient to handle it, and they end up spending it all in 3 to 5 years. And it's partly because they didn't expand their consciousness to accept $120 million of abundance all at once. Well, good discussion. So as long as we get your dating life in, that's all. We want to thank you so much for listening. listening or watching or both, whatever you did today, to enjoy the episode today. We hope you did enjoy it. Remember that we still at this time, in August of 2023, we are still posting a brand new episode for you every single Monday morning, so that you can put your alert on and you can listen to it every Monday if you want to. We truly appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do to support the podcast. All our links and our email address are down in the doodly-doo in the description of YouTube below. We wish you a happy and abundant week, and we look forward to you joining us again on the next episode of Co-Creation Station. Bye, everybody.
Bye.